Well, one thing I can pretty much guarantee you is you are not going to see Brian Stetler reporting on this on reliable sources. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and this is Winnie the Westie. I just finished doing a podcast with Pantelis, and I'm scheduled to do a live stream with Robert Barnes and Count Dankula in about 45 minutes, so I'm squeezing in a vlog in between. Actually, by the time you see this vlog, I will have done the live stream with Count Dankula. I can shoot the content. I'm going to have to edit this after the live stream. We were supposed to talk about this Sunday night with Robert Barnes, but we didn't get around to it, which gives me the perfect opportunity to go over the lawsuit prior to next week's live stream where we discuss this. It would appear that our dear friend Don Lemon, for all of the name-calling that he hurls at other people, might be up to a little no-good of his own. Now, the lawsuit itself is from the end of 2019, so it's not exactly news, although I guarantee you that you did not see very much of it in the news, and you saw even less of it on CNN News. Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Suffolk, Dustin Heiss, plaintiff against Don Lemon, defendant, verified complaint. On air and through social media platforms, Don Lemon, hereinafter Mr. Lemon or defendant, an American journalist and Emmy Award-winning news anchor for cable news network CNN, who, among other things, purports to be a staunch advocate for the, quote, Me Too, end quote, movement, a social movement meant to bring awareness and give a voice to victims of sexual assault and sexual harassment. All right, now I read that sentence a few times and it seems to be a fragmented sentence with a typo, and I am not here to criticize the technical aspects of this lawsuit. I have some criticism on the substantive aspects of this lawsuit, which we will get into, and I say this knowing full well it is always easy to play Monday morning quarterback or front seat driver analyst guy. I read this lawsuit. I have some substantive issues with this lawsuit, not technical issues like fragmented sentences or typos, and Robert and I are going to discuss this and more during our next week's live stream, but let's just get back to this lawsuit in case you don't know what's going on. Spoiler alert, Don Lemon is allegedly not acting all too properly, and I say allegedly because these are all allegations. They are not yet proven facts, so let's go ahead and read some more of these allegations. When the cameras are turned off, however, Mr. Lemon's actions are in stark and disturbing contrast to the public persona he attempts to convey. Such was the case in July of 2018 when Mr. Lemon unprovoked physically and verbally attacked plaintiff in a public bar displaying his true nature. Accordingly, this is a civil action brought on behalf of plaintiff against defendant seeking damages for, inter alia, assault and battery in violation of the New York State common law. All right, we can skip over the parties, the jurisdiction and venue, and some of the material facts. I will screenshot a page from the lawsuit so you can freeze frame it and read it at your leisure if you so choose. Suffice only to say that this occurred at a bar in the Hamptons, allegedly. During the summer of 2018, plaintiff worked as a bartender at the Old Stove Pub, hereinafter the Old Stove, a popular restaurant and bar located at Sagaponack, New York. At that time, plaintiff's boss was George Gunalis, hereinafter Mr. Gunalis. On or about July 15, 2018, upon information and belief in recognition and celebration of all the hard work plaintiff and his colleagues had put in during the Independence Day rush, Mr. Gunalis closed the Old Stove and went out with plaintiff and others to celebrate a thus far successful season. Later that evening, plaintiff Mr. Gunalis and a patron of the Old Stove, Jane Rowe, arrived at Murph's Backstreet Tavern, hereinafter Murph's, a local bar in Sag Harbor, New York. When plaintiff entered Murph's, he noticed a familiar face and realized that Mr. Lemon was also at the bar, seemingly enjoying a drink with his friends. Being cordial, plaintiff tried to get Mr. Lemon's attention and offered to buy Mr. Lemon a drink, a quote lemon drop, end quote, a vodka cocktail. Mr. Lemon denied plaintiff's offer and responded that he was quote just trying to have a good time, end quote. Plaintiff then left Mr. Lemon and went back to socialize with the individuals he arrived with. Mr. Lemon returned to his friends and both groups went about their night, and there was no further interaction thereafter until Mr. Lemon's assault upon plaintiff. Now, we are going to get to the alleged assault in a moment when we read that allegation. Suffice only to say for now that the alleged assault involves Don Lemon putting his hands down his pants, rubbing his privates, and then taking his fingers and forcibly shoving them in the plaintiff's face. We will get there in a moment, and this is not any form of victim blaming.
And there is no but to that.
My lawyer senses are tingling because I get the impression we are skipping over certain material facts which may not necessarily be favorable to the plaintiff, specifically as relates to what plaintiff did in order to get Don Lemon's attention.
Being cordial, plaintiff tried to get Mr. Lemon's attention and offered to buy Mr. Lemon a drink, a quote lemon drop, a vodka cocktail.
When plaintiff alleges that he tried to get Don Lemon's attention with no further detail, it does cause one to question, what did he do to try to get Don Lemon's attention? What could he have done? What could he have said that would have culminated in the alleged assault, but more specifically in Don Lemon by plaintiff's own admission, saying to plaintiff, "We're just trying to have a good time." Mr. Lemon denied plaintiff's offer and responded that he was, quote, "just trying to have a good time," end quote. Again, there is not one iota of victim blaming in this analysis. It is just a question of feeling that there are certain facts omitted because plaintiff feels that those facts are going to be unfavorable, and by glossing over them, he's somehow going to avoid them when he is in fact not going to avoid them. Reading this allegation analytically like any good lawyer should, when it is alleged by the plaintiff himself that Don Lemon's response was, "I'm just trying to have a good time," it would lend something of a belief that what the plaintiff was doing was causing Don Lemon not to have a good time. Plaintiff alleges that he was just trying to be cordial and get Don Lemon's attention, but it seems by certain omitted facts that what he did was causing Don Lemon not to have a good time, which might explain but not justify the subsequent alleged assault. Sometime later that evening, unexpectedly, Mr. Lemon walked towards plaintiff and his colleagues inside Murph's. At such time, Mr. Lemon, who was wearing a pair of shorts, sandals, and a t-shirt, put his hands down the front of his own shorts and vigorously rubbed his genitalia, removed his hands, and shoved his index and middle finger into plaintiff's mustache and under plaintiff's nose. Mr. Lemon intensely pushed his fingers against plaintiff's face and plaintiff's nose, forcing plaintiff's head to thrust backward as defendant repeatedly asked plaintiff, quote, "Do you like P or D?" end quote. While saying this, Mr. Lemon continued to shove his fingers into plaintiff's face with aggression and hostility. Now, I am admittedly a bit of a germaphobe and hypochondriac, but this sounds absolutely disgusting. This is what bullies did to kids at camp when they wanted to pick on them. It sounds absolutely disgusting, but from the drafting of this lawsuit, something seems to be missing. As drafted, the lawsuit sums up the interaction with, "I tried to cordially buy him a drink, he told me he just wanted to have a good time, and then a little later that evening he saw me, put his hands down his pants, rubbed his genitalia aggressively, and shoved his fingers in my face." That sounds absolutely disgusting, but it does sound like there are certain unfavorable facts that are not being alleged because plaintiff thinks that they can avoid them by not alleging them, but I suspect the defendant is going to get those unfavorable facts out there at some point in time. So I don't like the drafting of this lawsuit because even if it turns out that the plaintiff is not omitting including certain unfavorable facts, it reads that way, although I suspect that they might very well be omitting unfavorable facts, and I tend to think plaintiff is always better off getting those unfavorable facts out there early. The other reason why I don't particularly like the way this lawsuit is drafted, for as summarily as they drafted the facts leading up to the alleged assault, for whatever they seem to have omitted, they went extra heavy on the alleged damages. Plaintiff was shocked and humiliated and fled the bar. Mr. Gonellis followed plaintiff outside. Plaintiff was emotionally devastated by Mr. Lemon's demeaning, unprovoked, and offensive assault. Plaintiff and Mr. Gonellis remained outside for approximately 5 to 10 minutes before plaintiff was able to collect himself and return to Murph's. When plaintiff and Mr. Gonellis returned inside, Mr. Lemon had left the premises. Plaintiff is tormented after being assaulted by Mr. Lemon. Following the altercation, plaintiff found it increasingly more difficult to continue working at the Old Stove or socializing at all in the Hamptons. Since the incident occurred in a public bar, it later became apparent that many of the patrons who frequented Murph's witnessed and talked about what Mr. Lemon had done and joked about it. After the incident, customers who came into the Old Stove or saw plaintiffs out and about cheekily ordered lemon drops and laughed at plaintiff's expense. In addition, plaintiff consistently overheard people talking in whispers about what had happened at Murph's, and some even brazenly questioned him about it while he was trying to work. As a result of the incident and the events thereafter, plaintiff found it increasingly difficult to work in the Hamptons. Plaintiff was constantly reminded of the assault perpetrated against him and lived in fear of running into Mr. Lemon, whose family, upon information and belief, lives in Sag Harbor, New York. Plaintiff has suffered tremendously as a result of Mr. Lemon's actions. Following this incident, plaintiff found himself withdrawn from friends and family, suffered feelings of shame, humiliation, anxiety, anger, and guilt. Plaintiff found himself unable to sleep and at times and suffered from suicidal ideations. Although plaintiff, a religious man, tried to find solace within his faith and the church, to this day he continues to suffer emotionally, mentally, and personally from the incident. Moreover, as a result of the incident, plaintiff has found himself unable to return to work in New York over the summer, a tradition he once looked forward to and loved. Now, this is just a critical analysis of the drafting of the lawsuit, but you see how they really glossed over the facts leading up to the incident and then lay it on quite thick when it comes to the damages. Now, any lawyer worth their salt will tell you that emotion is an important factor in drafting, but there is a risk of overdoing it on the emotion and turning off the judge or jury. It can reflect poorly if a judge or jury thinks a plaintiff is glossing over certain facts and then exaggerating on others, and if it were me drafting this, I might have been a little more matter-of-fact about the alleged damages and psychological distress so that nobody thinks that we're trying to play it up a little too much. Abraham Lincoln wisely said, "Don't allege that which you need not allege, lest you be required to prove that which you may not be able to prove." I think I may have screwed that that up a little bit. But the bottom line, the more you allege by way of psychological stress, the more evidence you're going to have to make of it, the more you open yourself up to questioning and cross-examining on it, so it's better to just stick to the essential. And then we get into the charges, which are pretty straightforward. Causes of action: as and for a first cause of action, assault and battery. As and for a second cause of action, intentional infliction of emotional distress. As and for a third cause of action, negligent infliction of emotional distress. Demand for jury trial. Wherefore, for the foregoing reasons, plaintiff seeks a judgment against defendant as follows. 1. An order enjoining defendant, along with his agents, employees, and those acting in concert therewith, from unlawfully retaliating against plaintiff for his commencement of and participation in this litigation. 2. An award of damages against defendant on plaintiff's claims as outlined above, including without limitation reimbursement of and prepayment for all of plaintiff's expenses, including expenses incurred as a consequence of the assault, damages for deprivation of the access to career opportunities, and damages for past, present, and future emotional pain and suffering, ongoing and severe mental anguish, and loss of past, present, and future earnings and enjoyment of life in an amount to be determined at trial. 3. Punitive and or exemplary damages against defendant. 4. Statutory pre- and post-judgment interest on all sums awarded. 5. An award of costs and attorney's fees. And 6. Any other relief the court finds just and proper. So that is the lawsuit. We will see what we have to discuss next week during our live stream with Robert Barnes. What we have talked about in the past is that typically with perpetrators of assault like this, they have something of a history. Typically, behavior like this is not a one-off incident, and anyone who is inclined to act like this on one occasion probably has a history of similar conduct in the past. That being said, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and in as much as I do not like Don Lemon, Brian Stetler, or anyone else at CNN, they are innocent until proven guilty, and we will need to see where this lawsuit goes, but at the very least, now you know the lawsuit. Alright, and now I need to run inside and do a live stream with Count Dankula and Robert Barnes. If you like my videos, you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm.
Feed me Seymour.
If you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment. We've got PayPal, Patreon, subscribe to our YouTube membership. We've got merch. Robert Barnes and I do weekly live streams every Sunday. We do weekly streams with a guest every Wednesday called The Sidebar. All of my content is also on Rumble, so you can watch it there if you want to get off of other platforms. But more important than anything, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you is doing well, and now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah.